And let's bring Steve. Yes, Steve? Or are you Steve or Steven? Steven! Everybody, give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Several years ago, I was living in San Francisco, and one night I was at a bar. It was the night before Thanksgiving, and some buddies of mine showed up. They had rented a van. It was outside, and they wanted to drive down to Mexico and have Thanksgiving in Mexico on the beach. They had been bugging me all week to come with them on this trip, and I kept telling them no, and they didn't want to take no for an answer. And this was their last-ditch effort to try to convince me to come along with them. And I said, guys, I'm very flattered, but made my decision, and I don't want to go. At that point, Paul took the drink out of my hand, put it on the bar. I felt Jimmy Ho. Jimmy Ho's a large man. I felt Jimmy Ho bear hug me from behind and lift me up, and I feel myself being carried out of the bar. And they said, Steve, you're going to Mexico with us. And I was being kidnapped by my friends to Mexico, and I guess part of me wanted to go because I didn't fight it too much, but on the way to the van, I was kind of saying, guys, can we at least go by my apartment so I can get like a toothbrush and a change of underwear? And they said, Steve, you should have thought of that when you turned us down earlier in the week. And my friends are very enthusiastic smokers of marijuana, but I was still surprised when they pushed me into the back seat of the van. Like there on the back seat, like right out in the open, was this massive bag of pot. It was the biggest bag of pot I've seen in my life. And I said, you guys are nuts. We can't drive around with the biggest bag of pot I've seen in my life out in the... I think that might be the definition of drug trafficking. I'm not sure. And also, even you guys cannot put a dent in that before we get to the border, where I assume we have to throw it out. And they said, Steve, we're not throwing it out. We're taking the pot to Mexican Thanksgiving. And before you get all stressed out on us, the Mexican border agents are not as tough as the United States ones. So if we hide it really well, we're going to be fine. So I thought this was kind of a bad idea. But as we continued to drive in the night and the second-hand cloud of smoke got thicker and thicker, I found myself becoming more open to the possibility maybe if we do hide it well, we can get the pot into Mexico. And so the great debate begins, like, where are we going to hide this massive bag of pot? CT says, well, just shove it under the front seat. And Jimmy Ho says, no, it's the first place we'll look. And the debate would rage on. Pretty soon we're approaching San Diego, and I point out this would be a great place to stop to possibly get a toothbrush and maybe a change of underwear. And Paul is our designated driver, and he's staying somewhat straight. And he said, Steve, don't worry about your toothbrush and your damn change of underwear. We have to hide this pot. Have you guys decided where to hide the pot? And so we start talking about that again. Jimmy Ho says, I think we got to tape it under the fender. And CT says, that's the first place they'll look. And then the debate rages on. And pretty soon we're leaving San Diego, and I start feeling sorry for myself. I'm like, I'm going to Mexico for 4 days without a toothbrush and a change of underwear. And now the lights of San Diego are kind of drifting behind us. And when you get close to the Mexican border, the landscape, it just gets very, very dark. It's just pitch black. You just see what the headlights are showing in front of you. And you can see, as you get close to the border, these dots of flickering lights, like up and down the border to the east and west. And CT, who had gone to Mexico a lot, told us those are campfires. Those are hopeful immigrants who are having their last rest, their last meal before making that mad dash to try to live in a new land. And we all got silent in that van. We all got really quiet, and we're just staring out the window. And I thought, God, I'm such a jackass. I'm worried about not having a toothbrush and a change of underwear. And you can see campfires for miles, and all those people, they barely have anything. They have next to nothing. They don't even have a country at this moment of their lives. And I'm worried about my underwear. And here I am. I've got a wallet full of cash. I got a comfy ride in a nice rental van. I'm surrounded by good friends, the kind of friends that will kidnap you against your will and take you to Mexico. And we all just kind of sat in silence for the next 20 minutes. And we went through the border, and Paul answered the questions by all the border guards. And we continued driving another 10 miles into Mexico, all lost in our own thoughts, thinking about how nice it is to have all we had and to have each other. And Paul finally broke the silence and turned around and said, "Hey, guys, where'd you end up hiding the pot?" And I looked at CT, and I looked at Jimmy Ho, and I looked down on the seat next to me, and out in the open was the biggest bag of pot I've ever seen in my life. Thank you.